you can't fear because you're gonna fail. Like every day I fail. I feel like a lot of people, when I talk to people that want to like do something and start something, they want to be to this big end vision. They want to start off with this big dream and like have the big space, and they can't do what they're doing unless they have the big thing. And they're like, well, I need this building. I'm like, no, you don't. Like, you want that. You don't need that.
Yeah.
And start small and grow into that. That's what people need to do. Start small, scale it all down to the tiniest little thing that you can do, and start there. Why take all this time trying to reinvent the wheel?
Exactly.
Just learn the wheel.
Exactly.
Do what someone else is doing that's already successful and doing it better.
Hi, my name is Dawn Town, and you are tuning into Breakthrough into Business. Breakthrough into Business is a new series that I'm going to be launching where you're going to be hearing from female entrepreneurs who have launched their business, overcome obstacles, and found success in their own industries. We hope that you walk away inspired and encouraged and equipped to find breakthrough in your own business. And I'm so excited. I'm sitting next to Kari Patterson of Deluxe Aesthetics. So excited that you're interviewing me
No,
today.
I'm so excited too.
It's been so fun to watch your journey. I'm so excited to dive into it. But one of the first things I want to do is just let our audience know who you are, what Deluxe Aesthetics is about, and what you do.
Yeah, so Deluxe Aesthetics is about really empowering women by giving them confidence through beauty and wellness services. So I personally believe, and I feel like all the girls in my business, we all just believe, like when you look and you feel your best, you just have more confidence. And so that's really what we're trying to give our clients is, you know, we want you to come in and we want you, you know, we just want to help make you feel beautiful in whatever service that is, whether it's lash extensions, Botox, fillers, microblading with the eyebrows, whatever it is to make you feel beautiful, girl, that's what we want to give you.
Right.
So that's what it's about.
I love that. And I love especially seeing your journey on social media, because you guys are very active on social media, just how important team is to you, because I think we don't always see that behind the scenes when you're building a business, is how important a team is. And I'm sure we'll dive into that when we get further into the interview. But I do love how we've gotten kind of that behind the scenes details of what does it look like to build a team. So, but I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. The first question that we want to dive into is, when did you first have this idea to open your business?
So I never had this idea of being a business owner, actually. Like, it was just something, it was actually a joke, kind of a joke. I was with my friend and she was a massage therapist, and I was like, oh my gosh, we should open a business together, not meaning what I was saying, but she took me serious and was like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I don't think I ever went into business thinking I wanted to be a business owner. I'm just always down for the ride of trying new things. And so it just led one thing to the next thing, and I'm just on this ride.
I love that. That like speaks so much to a growth mindset, that you're just like, how did you phrase it again? You were just like on that ride to just try.
Yeah.
I love that, because that's such, I love personal development, and that's such a growth mindset thing. And to me, that's like a key ingredient to a successful business owner, is having that growth mindset where you're willing to take risks.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you are. Obviously, we're in this brand new building that you guys have just opened up, which is really
such
exciting.
a risk. It is true. I think going into business, you have to, you definitely have to be okay risking things, and not be afraid of failing at anything. You just have to be able to be like, I'm going to do it, and I'm just going to see what happens, and I'm going to be okay with the consequence, whether it works or it doesn't work. So yeah, it is kind of risky, but it's definitely worth it.
I love that. I love that advice. How would you say that when this friend held you accountable to this idea, then how did you then find the courage to actually launch?
Honestly, I think it was helpful to have somebody else on the same train with me. I don't think I would have ever done it by myself, because I never thought I would succeed at anything. Like, you know, even with the business when I was opening it, like my vision, like I was like, as long as I have 4 clients just to pay my bills, like I don't even care if I make any money. But like I didn't see myself as being successful. But like I had a friend that was like, yeah, let's do it. And so it wasn't like I was alone on the journey. It was like someone else was with me. And so it was kind of just really fun. Like, let's just do this together and see what happens. And so I think having someone else invested in the idea like helped give me courage, because I could lean on her.
I love that. I do, because I think that's so important too. When you open up to the right people and share your dream and vision with the right people, that's so key. Even if they're not going on the journey with you, but at least you have that person who's an encourager and a visionary and can like keep you going when you feel discouraged. Because no doubt along the way, I'm sure you've had discouraging moments. So I love that you say bring other people on the ride with you, and doing it together was helpful for you.
So helpful.
Okay, so what pitfalls or obstacles have you experienced as a business owner?
So I would say the biggest is probably learning how to be a leader and how to manage people. I never thought of myself as a leader. And when I started getting employees, I realized I really sucked at it. And so I learned, and I remember I sat down with Kayla, she's one of my very first employees. She was my first employee. And I sat down and we had a conversation. I was like, you know what, Kayla, I'm going to be honest with you. I really suck at this. But like, I am committed to becoming better, and I'm going to learn how to be a better manager. And so I think like the hardest thing I have found is learning how to grow in being a leader, and what is that and what is that like. And there's like this rule in business, it's like the rule of 3. So like every, you know, when you grow from 100,000 to 300,000 in sales, you have to reinvent yourself every 3. So it's like, you know, in the beginning, you're one way, but then when you hit 100,000 in sales, you've got to reinvent who you are and the type of manager you are. And then when you hit another 300,000 in sales, it's like you have to reinvent yourself all over again. And so it's like constantly learning how to reinvent you as a leader and how you're going to build your team.
I love that, because it really just is another way I think of it, as you say that, is really just bridging the gap from where you are to where you want to be is that reinvention. Like you almost act as if you're already there in a sense to gain that. I love that reinvention. And then I was going to say too, I can so see why you are so likable, because you're so transparent, you're so humble, and you're so real. And you don't always see that from business owners. You just, you know, sometimes you just see the highlight reel and you see, you know, the perfection and the end result. But sometimes, you know, if you are starting out and you're in the middle of your business, that can be discouraging, because you just think, gosh, everybody's made it, but why am I struggling? But to hear that, no, you've had struggles, you've had obstacles, and then just how real and open you are about that, I feel like makes you so likable. You probably hear that all the time, but I just love that, because it just, to me, that's what draws an audience in, and what draws your crowd really is how real you can be. And no, you don't air all your dirty laundry, but just being real about things are tough sometimes, and yeah, there's obstacles, but this is how I've overcome. So I love that you shared that.
Yeah, I think I didn't realize how hard business was. And I don't think, it's kind of like having a baby, where like, you know, when you're pregnant and everyone's like, your life is going to change when you have this baby, and you're like, oh yeah, I know. And then you have the baby and you're like, I have no idea. Like, that's kind of what business is. And many times I've felt alone, and I don't want anybody to feel alone. Like I mean, I remember calling the Burlington Chamber of Commerce one day, like in tears, calling Amy and being like, I need another business owner, another female, help me find somebody, I need help. So I think it's important for people to know business is really fun, but there is like struggle and it's not easy, and people should know that.
Yeah, and to reach out when you need help. I love that you said that too. Rather than like go it alone, just try to tough it out. No, reach out. I love that.
Yes, because like, just like being a mom, like you can't be a mom. Imagine being a mom with no one else in this world being a mom with you. Do you know what I mean? Like, it'd be so hard. Nobody knows what you're going through. And that's kind of like business. Like, you can't be in business and not have associates around you that know what you're going through, because it would just be so lonely. Because you need that support of someone that's like, oh, I know where you've been. Don't worry. You're going to get over that. It's fine.
Oh, I love that. Nuggets of wisdom are being dropped. I absolutely love that. Okay, so what do you wish you had known before you started in business, or what advice would you give the younger you?
I wish I would have known that I could, like, I don't think I knew I could be successful. Because I just assumed everybody else around me was successful. I wasn't. Like, I was the mess up in my family. And so I just I wish I could go back and tell myself, like, everybody has a gift. Everybody has a purpose in life. And you just have to find it and go with it. And you need to find, like, what you're really, really, really good at. Like, I love problem solving. I do. It's like, I've done it since I was a kid. If you tell me a problem, like, I'll come up with 50 different ways to try to solve your problem, which is why it makes me a good business owner, is because that's like my skill set. But if you put that in school, like, that's not a very good skill set. Do you know what I mean? So I wish I wish I could just tell myself to do something, and I think everybody needs to do this. They need to find something really, really hard that they think that they can't accomplish and they can't do it, and then have endurance to go through it and do it. And I think it only takes one time of really doing something that you didn't think you could do that just switches this, like, light switch in your brain that you then realize, like, you can do anything and you can accomplish anything, but you have to do something that you didn't think you could do and actually, like, accomplish it.
I love that. And too, as you're saying that, it reminds me of that saying, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but it's something like, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb, you would think the fish is a failure. That, like, speaks to exactly what you were saying. That's so true, because, you know, I'm sure there are so many people out there that they're struggling to find their purpose. They're really, you know, they might have an idea on their mind. They have a business that they want to try, but they feel like, oh, I don't know if I have the skill set. I don't know if my skills match with this or that. But I love that you say, find what you're really passionate about, find what you're good at, and go for it, and challenge yourself, because there's so much growth that happens in challenge. You know, I think sometimes we love to bypass the process. I know I do. I just wish I could snap my fingers and I'm there, and I don't have to go through that painful process of growth. But unfortunately, life's not like that. You do have to, like, fail along the way. And I love that your message is, go for it anyway. Like, do what challenges you, because you're never going to get to that place you want to be, I feel like, in business, unless you're willing to have some failure along the way. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah, totally. You have to do the hard things and fail and go for it. And that's where growth comes from. Like, like, I'm doing a bikini fitness competition right now, and it's a year long of training. And the only reason why I don't actually like working out, I don't want to work out, and I don't want to eat healthy or anything like that. I'm only doing it for one reason, and the only reason is I want that mental success that you get from doing something hard and being like, I did not want to do that, but I just did that. And that's the only reason I'm doing it, is because I want to push my mental. And so that's what I would really encourage everyone to do, is, like, push them to do something challenging that they don't want to do it, but, like, just do it.
I love that. I love that advice so much. I need to, like, take that on the fitness side of what you're saying. Like, I need to be
I know, right? It's so true.
I love that. Okay, let's see. What setbacks or obstacles would you warn other people to look out for along the journey who haven't yet stepped into their passion and purpose, or maybe they are in their passion and their purpose, or they're trying to get there, but there's, you know, what obstacles or setbacks would you warn them about, you know, in the journey that come along with getting to success?
Probably fear, because fear, I feel like it should be part of the 7 deadly sins. because it just holds you back from everything. I feel like that's what stops people from doing things, is they live in this box of like, oh, you know, I can't have that, only she can have that, or I can't open a business, that's gonna, like, what if I fail and I don't have money? And I feel like failure is probably the biggest crippling thing to anybody. And like, I actually have a story. So I was in business when I started off. I was doing really great, and a year into it, I got really depressed and didn't know what I was doing. So I actually went to a therapist about business, and I was sitting in this chair with him, and I was telling him what was going on, and he's like, do you know what I keep hearing from you? And I was like, what? And he goes, fear. Fear is the only thing that you're saying to me. And I was like, oh. And then he's like, tell me about your happiest time in business. And I was like, well, it was when I first opened. I was like so happy. And he's like, did you have fear? And I was like, no. And he's like, And so it was in that moment that I learned I'm never giving in to fear ever again in my life. So the moment that I feel fear, I go the opposite way. So if I'm scared to do something, I'm going to do it. And I think that's how everybody needs to be. Like, if you have a business idea and you want to do it, and your brain starts going down this negative path of like, well, what if I don't make enough money and then I can't pay my bills and like, you need to learn to swipe right and start going like, well, what if I'm really successful? And then I have to hire employees, and then I'm really happy. Like, you have to think positive, not negative. Yeah.
I love that. And just even to add that, I would say too, learn to trust that you're going to be able to handle failure. Because I think failure and fear you can build them up in your mind, and I always like to think of fear as like a horrible roommate. It takes up so much room, and pretty soon you're like shrunk in this corner and fear is filling up the room. But what I love to think about too is deciding for myself, even if I fail, even if my worst fears come true, I'm going to find a way to survive that, and I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
Because you can you can build things up in your mind to be so huge and think, oh, this is going to be the end of me if I fail. This is going to be the end of me if this fearful thing happens. But if you decide for yourself, I can survive that, I feel like that helps too.
Because you go positive. It's about like changing it from negative to going positive. Like, okay, so I fell. Who cares? I don't care. This is what's going to happen. Worst case scenario, like, who cares? You know what I mean? So you really have to like just be okay with failure. Like that, we say that all the time. We're like, we love failing here. It's great. Failure is so fun.
I'll have to start remembering to say that failure is so fun. I love that.
Yeah.
It's so fun. What would you say, what is one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given, and how did it help you?
I was talking to my brother-in-law, and he's an entrepreneur. And he told me one day, like, and it's funny because my mentors, they seem to give me advice at like the right time, and they don't even know that they're saying it. But one time he said to me, he's like, Kari, he's like, unless you can take your business and open it in a different like town, like 50 miles away from you, and have it run without you there, you don't have a business, you have a hobby. And I was like, what do you mean I have a hobby? I'm working my butt off. And so, but then it kind of gave me like this, like, okay, that's what I got to do to have a business? Fine, I'll do that. So then I was like, I'm going to make sure that I put in policy and procedures so that if I wanted to, whether or not I do, I can open a business, 6 towns away, and it can run because I have everything running. I know how to make it run whether or not I'm here or not.
I love that too, because that speaks to having such a big picture mindset, which is important if you're a business owner, really, is to have that big picture mindset. I love that piece of advice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What is something that was important to you a decade ago or more? It doesn't have to be a full decade, but it was important to you at one point, and it's no longer important to you.
A college degree. I still value that a lot, and I really love college degrees, but I grew up believing that was success, and unless you had it, you just weren't successful. Like, how could you support your family? How could you support kids or whatever? And now I've learned that is one way, but there's multiple ways to get there. And I think really what it comes down to is honestly like work ethic. Like if you work hard, you're gonna make it. Like you just are.
Yeah, I love that, because how many times have we heard about some of the most influential, profitable business owners who either didn't go to college at all, or they went for a while, decided this isn't what's going to get me where I want to go, and then they dropped out, and they're like hugely successful, hugely profitable. I love that. That's so true.
Yeah,
I can so see that.
Yeah.
In 2021 and looking ahead, what would you say the key to success is?
For me or for like other?
Well, I would say like in general, because this is a different world, I think, for business owners than it was even 10 years ago, certainly 20 years ago or more. So do you feel like there's anything with you as a business owner now that has stood out that is a key to success in 2021 and beyond?
Endurance. Endurance. Not giving up, and like knowing, like when I was finishing this building in particular, I ran out of funds at one point, and I was like, I can't complete the project. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like I just completely failed. And I was talking again to one of my mentors, and he says to me, he's like, Kari, you know the difference between a good business owner and a bad one? And I was like, no, what? And he's like, if you're good, you'll figure it out. And I was like, wow. Okay. And so I'm like, yeah. And so I think it's when you have your back up against the wall, knowing like you have more to give, and that's not the end of your story. So like when you're feeling like this is it, I can't go on, this is like done, you again swipe your mindset, and instead being more passionate and driven and be like, no, this is not how my story ends. I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna make it end a different way, and I'll figure it out, and I'll go through every hoop possible to like make it.
I love that phrase, this is not the end of my story, because I feel like whenever you do face a challenge, or you're fearing failure, you're in fear of something, or you've come up against the same obstacle again and again and again, and you feel like you haven't broken through that wall. I mean, maybe people watching do have a business and it hasn't been profitable in the way that they have wanted it to up to this point. It's that endurance. It's that deciding this isn't the end story. There's another page, and I'm gonna keep writing, and I'm gonna have a successful end of chapter. Like that, you're just not settling. I love that.
And that's why I think people should try. If they want to go into business, they should try it, because honestly, I don't think the human nature in any of us wants to fail or will fail. Do you know what I mean? So if you want to own your own business, like you just won't let yourself fail, because you just won't. You'll do what it takes because you don't want to fail. So
I love that. And two, I mean, I would imagine in 2020 when the pandemic hit, that probably really affected businesses. I mean, it's affected businesses all over the US. Like, is there anything you could speak to as to what that was like as a business owner? Because I'm sure that was a moment where you were filled with a lot of fear.
Yeah, I was, especially because aesthetics tends to follow the economy. So if the economy is good, people are spending it on themselves. If the economy is bad, you're not. And so my biggest fear was, oh great, I have this building, and now the economy is going to go to crap. And so again, I think it comes down to endurance of like, no, it's not. I will like reinvent myself 10, 20 times if I have to make it like work. If I add a boutique or do whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to do something. So yeah,
having that resilient mindset.
Yeah.
I love that. The top 3 things, so I did a poll in a pretty big Facebook group. It was Christy Wright's Business Boutique, and and there's a few other Facebook pages or Facebook groups that I did polls in, and I was asking, what are the top 3 things that are holding you back from really launching your business? And I did, like I said, I did the poll in a few different places, and the constant that was coming back was fear of failure, not enough time, not enough money. So if you for anyone who is deep in discouragement over any of those things, like what would be your best piece of advice on how you deal with these 3 things?
So the fear, you've got to swipe right, be positive. And honestly, if you're afraid to start a business, that is the least of your fears that you will ever worry about. It's so minuscule on a scale of 1 to 100. Your fears grow to be so much greater than that. So like, you can't fear because you're gonna fail. Like every day I fail, every day. But that's what makes me successful, is because I believe that every time one of my employees fell or something like that, it's my fault. It's not theirs, it was mine, because I didn't set them up. So like in business, you're gonna fail, so you should just get over that. Swipe right. As far as like my money and financials and stuff like that, I feel like a lot of people, when I talk to people that want to like do something and start something, they want to be to this big end vision. Do you know what I mean? Like, like say they want to open a coffee shop, they want the big store with everything. But here's the thing, is you're not there yet. I feel like people, they want to start off with this big dream and like have the big space, and they can't do what they're doing unless they have the big thing. And the truth is like, they're not there yet. Do you know what I mean? Start small and grow into that. Like, you want to have a boutique, but like having all of that is a lot of income, a lot of like overhead. You don't have to start there. Start going into people's closets and like doing like personal styling one-on-one, and build your name that way. And then as it grows, then you get your like next facility. So I feel like a lot of people, they don't start because they don't start small, and they want to be here, but they're not there yet. Like, so start small. You don't need money. Scale it down to the tiniest little thing, and then grow from that.
That is such good advice. I love that. Like, I'm so excited as you're talking. I'm so, oh my gosh, it just gets me fired up to hear you say that, because I feel like as a business owner, you can be such a visionary that you can't even focus on the day-to-day steps of what you need to do. I so relate to that. So when you say that, I'm like, oh, you're talking to me.
Yes.
But two, I think John Acuff has a book called Start, and he has this really funny story that like when people get started in fitness, or they want to get healthy, they're like, they look at the weights and they're like, man, I don't want to get too buff. And they're not even focusing on the fact that they just need to eat right. Just go to the gym and do like cardio for 15 minutes or something. Like, but they're holding themselves back because they don't want to get too buff. You know, they don't want to like bulk up too much. And it's so funny to like hear people say that, but we so do that to ourselves sometimes. We'll like be focused on the big picture and thinking, yeah, you're right. We want to bypass the process.
Yeah, like, but you're not there.
Right.
You just aren't there yet. But you got to start small. It's all about starting. It's not about where. And then, like, I started in a basement of a dingy old building. It was very small. You saw it. And I did it and it's because I didn't have this grand vision of this business. It was like, I just started there, and then it just grew. And that's what people need to do. It just matters you start, not big. Start small, scale it all down to the tiniest little thing that you could do, and start there.
I love that. That's so manageable. You can do that. You just have to get over the mindset, like swipe right on the mindset of being focused on things you don't need to be focused on. And like you're saying, just like start, make it small. I love that. I love that. Because I feel like that's something that does keep people from launching, is they just.
I know, and it's so sad. I just like listen to people and they're like, well, I need this building. I'm like, no, you don't. Like, you want that. You don't need that.
Yeah. Start
like in your own house and trickle it.
Right. And we are in such an instant gratification culture that you feel like, gosh, if I can't have the big thing, then I don't know if I've got the endurance to get there, because the process is painful.
Yes. Yeah, no, I think that is it. Like, that's the problem, is we're so used to Facebook, everyone liking our stuff. So we like need the instant gratification of like, this is mine, instead of being like, I started there.
Yeah. I had a coach, I was having a coaching call last week, and my coach is like telling me about, you need to go live more. And even if you're going live to crickets, and it's not fun to go live like when nobody's like tuning in and encouraging you, but you know what? Sometimes you have to start small. Sometimes you have to do that.
Yeah,
So,
it's
I love
so
that.
hard. Yeah, I know. I'm in that same boat. I hate going live. I'm like, oh, can I edit this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is such good advice. I mean, like, hands down, I feel like that's I know we have more questions to get to, but to me, that's like the gold nugget of this. Is like the whole thing is like gold. Like what you're saying is so true and so valuable. But like hits the nail on the head in so many ways. I feel like that's really going to help people. So my bonus question to you is, how important would you say it is to hire a coach for success in business, and what has been your experience with that?
It's worth every penny. Every penny. And the reason why is because, like, I can get, like, when I hired my business coach, she came in and helped me learn financials and all sorts of stuff. So everything that she taught me in 6 months. And what it like, I could have learned all of that on my own, but I'm not kidding you, it would have taken 9 years. 9 years. I'm not even, if not longer. And so what it does is it just like speeded up my learning process. Do you know what I mean? Because like in business, you learn by failing, and you fail and you're like, oh crap, that's why I need a vision statement? Dang it. You know, I thought that was just a joke. Like, that's why you need a mission. Oh, and I need to know about my numbers. Like, so it just speeds up your learning process so that you can get there sooner, quicker, faster. Is really what a mentor does. And I've used, like, I'm so avidly for mentors, like, and they're not cheap, and the best ones aren't.
Right.
And so by all means, like, I will fork over a couple $1,000s for a mentor, because that's what it's worth, because that I'm investing in myself. I want to be successful. And I've done it for my aesthetics business. I also have an Airbnb business, and I hired a mentor for that. Best thing I ever did, because like that it would have taken me years. I probably never would have owned an Airbnb if I didn't hire a mentor, but he just showed me how to do it. Like, and it takes 5 minutes out of my day.
I love that. It's interesting to hear you say that, because that is exactly how I felt. I hired a life coach in 2019, and that's exactly what I felt like. She helped me put my foot on the gas pedal. Like, I could have taken 3, 5 years or whatever, 10 years to figure this out on my own. Or I could, invest in myself. And yes, it was a serious investment, but I was able to hit gas on the gas. I was able to put my foot on the gas pedal and get through the issues I was facing that much faster.
Yes.
So I totally identify with that. Yeah, completely.
It's awesome. Yeah, no, and I've even noticed, when did you hire her?
So I hired her in 2019 and coached with her for a year. And then actually in 2020, I hired a business coach, and I've been doing that for a year. So I'm like all about coaching now. And I'm actually coaching other women business owners and women who are wanting to launch. And so, yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I love that, because I've seen a big change in like you. Like, I see you everywhere now. And I'm like, wow, yeah, look at her go. Like, she's living her vision. So that's awesome.
And I think it's encouraging too, to speak on the other side too of coaching, is there's still work involved. There's still, it doesn't solve your problems, but at least it kind of gives you a roadmap to get there that much faster. But you have to put in that work, you have to put in that effort, and you still go through the painful process of development, but you're just that much more equipped, I think, when you have a coach.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it wasn't easy. My mentor wasn't easy. Many times she told me things that I didn't like to hear. I thought she was crazy. And then I'd get back on the coaching call the next time we talk and be like, okay, you were right. Fine.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, it is work still, but again, you get there sooner, quicker, faster. And you can learn from someone who's like, why take all this time trying to reinvent the wheel?
Exactly.
Just learn the wheel.
Exactly.
Do what someone else is doing that's already successful, and doing it better.
I love that. And another thing, and you mentioned it, part of the success in coaching and in being coached is that you're teachable. So you got to implement the things that they give you if you really want to see the results that they're telling you can achieve. So I think that's a huge part of coaching, and you have mentioned that as well. Yeah. So is there any last like parting words or advice that comes to mind? I think for women, being an entrepreneur as a woman,
it's harder because you're giving so much of yourself to your business and you still have to be a mom. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And many times there's a red flag at work and your kids are put on the back burner, and your kids can easily get resentful of your company. And so it's really important to always remember, as a mom, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, it is going to be harder for you than, you know, someone who doesn't have kids, as well as I think it's also important to remember that, like, you chose to be a business owner, your kids didn't. And so they shouldn't suffer the consequences of, you know, being put second because there's a fire at work.
I love that. That's so good. What do you feel about taking your kids along on the journey and like where that part of it? What do you feel about that?
I love it. There's a book that I read. It's Rich Dad Poor Dad. Have you read it? And he like, his dad like takes him through his company, and I remember my favorite part in the book is he said, you know, here I was watching my rich dad give a board meeting with all these 50 people looking at him and eating up his every word, and he's never gone to college or anything like that. And he's like, he just had so much respect. And it was in that message that I was like, I'm going to start taking my daughter to work with me to the meetings so that she can learn the inside of like running a business and running meetings and having hard conversations with employees, and because there's life skills that come from that. And
I think so many times you think of giving your kids a financial inheritance. I think when you take your kids along on your business journey, you're giving them a life inheritance of experience, wisdom that's just as valuable, if not more, than the financial inheritance. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. There's another podcast that I listened to, and it was a business. He grew up and he took over his father's company, and he was talking about how at the dinner table, he hated it because his parents always talked business at the dinner table. It was always business, 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 and so he hated it. But what he learned later on was that his parents gave him the best blessing by talking that, because most families don't hear that. Like, you don't hear employee problems, you don't hear business problems, but like he was so like, he got to learn so much from that, and he hated it, but he realized when he got older that it was the biggest gift he ever got. So I think it's like good sharing it.
I love that. Oh my gosh. This interview has been filled with so many nuggets of wisdom, so much incredible information. I'm excited to get it out there in the world. So thank you so much for interviewing with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, it was really great. I loved it. It was so fun.
And I love Deluxe Aesthetics. I love seeing that your journey has just evolved so beautifully. And I know other people just like love to follow along with you. So I see nothing but amazing things for Deluxe Aesthetics.
I know, it's like too many words.
With a business owner like you, because I mean, you have got it, and I'm just like, I'm all for you, and I'm rooting for you, and I love to see how you've built your team. It's incredible.
Awesome.
So, thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I loved it.
Absolutely.